Good morning. This is November the 19th, 2024, and we're inside the
Church of the Annunciation of the Blessed Virgin Mary.
And of course, 99% of the people in town say it's the Catholic Church because that's the easiest thing to remember. And we're going to talk today to Helen Rhodes and Louise Pelletier Dupuis about their memories of the church. And the reason I want to do it inside the church is because of the amazing stained glass. So at the end of the interview, Kirsten will take some pictures of the stained glass, but she just snapped one at the front. Tell us again, Louise, what that was meant.
The church is called the Church of the Annunciation of the Blessed Virgin Mary, and that stained glass depicts the angel Gabriel coming to ask Mary if she would be the mother of God, of Jesus Christ, and that we call it the Annunciation.
Oh, okay.
And it's our very first decade of the rosary that we do, and it's of the joyful mysteries, and that starts everything off. That's angel saying, Mary, would you become the mother of God, or the mother of Jesus? And she says yes.
So when we're talking about the front of the church, though, even though I'm not here, I know that that has changed so many times. The construction, not the construction, the decoration of it, eh?
And the layout.
And the layout is beautiful right now, for sure, but it's changed so many times.
Well, at one time before Vatican II, the actual altar would be against the wall, and the priest faced the wall and did mass, and it was all in Latin. But after Vatican II, it changed everything around and moved it so the priest faced the people and the mass was in English. Now, for the longest time, the tabernacle, our main pinnacle right at the front there, the gold thing, it was over on the side with the light beside it. The light signifies that Jesus Christ is present, and to us, we truly believe that Jesus Christ is present in that tabernacle in the consecrated hosts. There's hosts in there, and they are, in our mind, the body and blood of Jesus Christ.
Okay.
And so our newest priest, he comes from Africa, and he himself took it upon himself, because maybe it's happening more and more in the different churches around the world. Now it's back to the Eucharist is up at the very front, because it is the epitome of everything that we believe, that Jesus Christ is present in the sacrament of the Eucharist.
So it's actually interesting that the front of a church has so much meaning and history to it.
That's right.
I do remember it changing many, many times.
Yeah.
So when we started out, Louise reminded us that there was a small church here before, and that had to be in the 40s then.
Yes, I would think so, yes.
And then it was moved down the street and has become the Ukrainian Catholic Church. And it is now, of course, not a church, but a small church museum owned by Ron and Zach Cheatham. And it has lots of artifacts in it, very interesting. So the main thing, I think, when people come here who haven't been in this church are the stained glass windows.
Yes.
I think that, like when I come, every time I come, that's what I'm looking at, is the stained glass windows. And do you think that they were put in when the church was built?
No, it was after. I can't remember exactly when, but they didn't have stained glass, and then the priest wanted stained glass, so there was a fundraiser, and people, their names are written in front here.
Right.
That they donated the money for that window.
Wow. Yeah, I just can't imagine the cost of one of those windows today
Big time.
because of the stained glass. So this church is really now the oldest church in Nipigon. The other churches have all been replaced, but this one has been here since late 40s, early 50s, we're going to estimate then. Okay. So just one of the things that Louise has here is a list of the priests that would have been here. So Louise, just go through them so that people who are listening to this might remember some of those names.
Right. There was a Father Whitting, And he would have been here like in the late 40s, maybe early 50s. And then Father Muldoon, he came from Thunder Bay. And then after that was Father Kennedy. And then after Father Kennedy, or I'm not sure which one was for, Father Meyer might have been before that, because Father Myers was there when I made my first communion, and that'd be back in 1960. And then Father Kennedy was there, and then he left for a while, and then Father Tremblay came, because Father Tremblay was here in 74. He married me in this church. And then there was Father, and again, I can't remember which order they came in, Father Philippi, and then there was Father Fiarchuk. After that was Father Bazinet. He was a Jesuit with full of vim and fire, and after him was Father Magwatch. And Magwatch was from Marathon, that area there. And then after that came Father, the first Polish guy that did all the construction. What was his name again? His brother was in Thunder Bay as well. He did all the building.
I can't remember.
We forgot to mention, we were doing this recap before, you can't remember.
okay.
Yeah, but he did a lot of the woodwork, like in the back. Like he would have built those couple of things on the altar. He would have built all the cabinets in the back and whatever. And him and his brother were here. The brother was in Thunder Bay, and they came from Poland as well. I may think of his name. And then after that, we had 3 priests from India. They were here for short stints. And then after that, we had Father Henrik Augustinowicz. And people would remember him around town, anyone from this age, because he made pierogies and sold them. He ended up leaving last year, and he went to Thunder Bay, and he retired. And unfortunately, he just passed last week.
Just last week?
Just last week, yes. And then now we have a priest, a young priest, the first time we've had a young priest in a long time.
Nigeria.
And he's from Nigeria. And he's studied in the Vatican for 6 years as well. So at the present time, he's home for the first time in years, and he's back visiting his family in Nigeria.
Nice.
He's great, we love him.
Right.
And his name is Father Bonaventure Awaki, I believe it is. So, anyway, so those are the priests we've had here.
That's nice that they're all written down, because it's
Yeah.
so easy to forget.
Yeah.
And of course, my time, I remember Father Meyer and Father Kennedy. Father Kennedy was a go-getter in the community.
Very much
as well. Very much so. I have a
Yes.
picture of him jumping off the diving board into that swimming pool, because he was one of the fundraisers.
That's right.
For that. And Father Meyer, I remember, because when Roland Swazla got sick, I took his place at St. Ed's. Father Meyer did not like the idea that a United Church person was trying to teach religion, and he would stand in the doorway and watch to see what I was saying.
Yeah.
But Father Meyer was active in the community as well.
That's right.
They really were. But I'm sure most people will remember Father Kennedy. because-
Well, and Father Kennedy was one of the main ones behind hospital as well, the
Right.
hospital fundraising. So because of that, people like Helen and I were involved in everything, because we were always involved in the church for all these years. And so with Father Kennedy, you become involved.
Right.
Very, very much.
Father Meyer was part of the head of the power squadron.
Oh, right.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Dr. Summerly.
Right, right. So they were involved in the community, and so when you read them, people will remember certain names.
Yeah, that's
But I mean, I don't know why I remember Muldoon. That name comes to me, and yet I don't think I remember him.
Yeah.
And interesting like that.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
Well, I took lessons with Father Muldoon after I got married and came here, because I'm a convert to the Catholic faith.
Right.
I was very close to him.
So you came in what year here then?
I got married in 51 and moved here right away.
Okay.
And I became a CWL member 52 February.
Getting on in years that you've been involved in the church, Helen.
Yes.
Yeah. So do you have special memories of things that's happened in the church?
Oh, I have lots of memories, lots.
Oh, just tell us.
The Cedarville, we were very, very active in having workshops for members and whoever want to come and hear. And some of the proceeds, the activity we did sold them at the bazaars. And one priest was very instrumental in having suppers downstairs, all the time. And he was so involved in people that. And then there was another one that liked plays and concerts and stuff like that. And every church has a lot of different nationalities. So we had to dress up in our own costumes if we had them, and we sang the songs from our youth and what have you. It was very interesting.
Right.
And Father Hendrick, our one that we just lost, he was very instrumental in fundraising and getting 80 people from Poland here to Canada. And so he was quite well respected.
That's interesting. So I didn't know that side to this.
Yes, and he made parolees all the time, and he loved people, and he'd have suppers downstairs, and, got to mingle, got to get mixed up with
Right,
the rest of the parish, it was lovely.
right.
Yeah, we had, what do you call it?
Potluck dinners, you mean?
Pardon?
Potluck?
Oh, we had lots of potlucks.
Okay, you're
yeah.
thinking of something else. Okay.
Yeah, but we had concerts, we had, I forget what you call them. You're dressed up in, you have costumes from.
Oh, you mean like skits and that and plays and that, you mean?
Yeah, but then we had clothing from stores.
Oh, we did a fashion show.
Oh.
Yes.
Yes, our CW all did a fashion show. That's a lie. I still have lots of pictures from that, yes.
I think that you were well known for your fall bazaar all the time, always in October, that you had it, and very well attended in the basement, that's for sure.
Well, I think the one we're more renowned for is our homemade pies. And as a matter of fact, our Catholic Women's League will be, this year when they do an anniversary of the Fall Fishing Festival, we're the only booth that's been there throughout all of every Fall Fishing Festival.
59 years.
Yeah, and with it was our homemade pies.
Right.
And we still have people going, wow, you don't get homemade pies very much, so
Yeah,
that was
right.
kind of cool.
Yeah. Well, I think about it, my great-grandkids, they don't even like pie. They like cupcakes.
Yeah.
But people are not into pies, not like that. But that's right, you get all the people there for pies,
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah.
And that's a testament to the dedication of all those women
That's
over
right.
60 years.
That's right.
And all of the people in your parish for baking those
Yeah.
pies. I'm sure one person must have made 5 or 6 a time.
Sometimes, yes, because we don't have as many anymore, and some of our members they just don't bake as much anymore.
Right.
They don't,
Well, I can remember one year Ann Potoff and we decided that if the CWL will help us with flour and a few things for making pies, we'd make some because we never seemed to have enough pies. So we came down here. Father had said, come to the church and do your pies here and use our hydro. So Ann and I came and we made 49 pies in one day.
We used to sell tons of them, yeah, for sure.
So do you still sell pies by a whole pie as opposed to a slice?
Only, but they have to pay the full price of every slice.
Okay.
Because we don't have enough pies.
Right.
And as a matter of fact, when we were talking about this year, because it's an anniversary, we're talking about doing just what Helen talked about. And that is to get together and make a bunch of pies and have them ready.
Right,
So
right.
it'd be interesting for sure.
There's lots of things that go on in the church, even as a community, because all of the churches took part in
World Day of Prayer, for sure.
Right.
And make a joyful noise.
That's what I was
Make
thinking.
a joyful
Make a
noise,
joyful noise.
yes.
For sure.
And make a joyful noise where everyone brought their singing and music abilities. And it was a beautiful evening of music and worship. It was
Right.
beautiful.
So that's one thing that's kind of disappeared now.
So many things,
And, yeah, for
Well, so many things happen, and I'm one of those that I was baptized in this church, and so all I know was this church. Going to the Catholic school, and back in the day, and at the time, of course, before Jerry was the principal there, Helen's husband, we had Mrs. Vino. She was our first principal. But of course, the church and the school were very interconnected. And so the priest was in the church constantly, so we knew him very well. But then once a month, we'd all traipse over. There was no bus. We all walked over there every single month. And we would come and we would go, and every one of us, all those kids in this church would be packed with kids. We'd all be in line waiting to go to confession. And because we did that every month. And then we go to the family mass, the Catholic school mass as well.
Right.
So we grew up with the sacraments. And so someone like me has gone through the changes when there used to be a railing at the front, and we'd all go and line up and kneel on the front, and the priest would come along and give us all communion, and then, first communion time, and then there was confirmation time where the bishop would come down once every couple of years, because they did. When I made it, I was in grade 6, so he would have done grade 6, 7, and 8.
Okay.
And you sit there and just hope he doesn't ask you a question. You just sit there, please don't ask me, please don't ask me. But anyway, so that was kind of a neat thing. So we went through, like I said, very connected.
Right.
And then, do you remember the fall fishing, the music festivals?
Yes.
Okay, the music festivals were a big deal in Nipigon.
Yes, they were.
And now our choir won first prize 2 or 3 times.
Right.
And we still have the names on the certificate in the front of the church.
Right.
And I happen to be one of those that happened to be in the choir and then, it was so neat, all the things they had in the community. And the churches were so connected
Right.
with the communities,
Right.
and anyway.
And our church has a couple, because Lillian, of course, and
Yeah.
where it was a leader, but Midge Peel was in the Anglican church, so each church even had a major person involved in music, which would
Yes.
be Clara.
Clara and Doris and Vera.
And what about just that other side? Yes, so that each year we rotated, right? And went to a different church to have joyful noise.
Yes.
So then you got to experience the other churches as well.
Exactly. And as time went on, you always thought, oh my goodness, there's going to be nobody here to take over the music. There's, because
Right.
this person retired or this one moved away.
Right.
And somebody would come along.
Right.
And someone new would take over the choir and the music and whatever.
And there's so many changes, because there is our church now with no one doing music and
Yeah.
no one in the church hardly.
Well, that's worth, when you say that, that's worth noting, because my mother-in-law, Clara, she's 91, and she still plays the piano at church
Nice.
every Saturday night.
Wow.
I mean, that's just,
Somebody needs to take a picture for me.
yeah, that's amazing.
That's right.
I will get a picture for you
That
because
would
she
be
plays.
good.
And Leslie Zechner-Willen, who's again a kid that grew up in it, she works with her and she prepares everything, but Clara still plays.
Yeah.
After
Wow.
all these years.
And then when I came the one day, Richard was playing his
Yep.
guitar.
Yeah.
But Langtag used to play.
Yes, he
his
did, but
guitar.
they moved to Red Rock.
Right.
So he does it in Red Rock now.
Okay, we'll slow down here. Thanks, Kirsten. So we're just talking about people who are involved in music, but the one that I remember mostly is Mrs. Winfield.
Oh, gosh, yes,
She was a staple in the
Yes,
church, wasn't she? Because she lived across the road, very handy to the church.
And she used to be a genteel, one of the
Right.
families that built the hotels in town. And she was like not even 5 feet tall.
I know.
Not even 5 foot tall. But, so she'd be up there and she would play, and every now and again she'd jazz it up. She was just so much fun, eh, Helen?
Yeah.
But then she also cleaned the church.
Yes, I remember.
She did all that. So she was she was such a staple in
Yes.
this church.
She
Yes.
was.
So,
Yes,
yeah.
Full of energy, full of
Oh,
energy.
yeah.
Yes, you're right, full of energy.
Yes, yeah.
Just even remember her,
Yeah.
all of the time coming over here too.
Yeah.
Right,
And
right.
then yeah.
We used to, a bunch of us, we used to always have parties, the people from the church. And if somebody had a birthday party, we'd all gather there, and she was there with them, and Father Muldoon came with them, and we had a lot of fun. We
Right.
Mixed it.
It was real church communities
Yeah.
and families. I
Yes,
think
yes.
every church is the same, because when I talk to the other people too, it's a group of people that were in the church each time.
But you know,
but
yeah.
all the churches in Nipigon are connected, going back and
Yes.
forth to each other's church.
Yeah.
And of course, one of them is when there's a funeral, every church is represented at that funeral.
No doubt, no
Which
doubt.
is amazing,
No doubt.
is
no doubt.
amazing, right?
But it's funny when Helen just mentioned deacons. And Jerry was our first deacon, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was amazing. That was big for deacons to come into the church. And Jerry was the deacon. He was the first one. They were starting to have them in the diocese. And I think Helen should talk a little bit about the diaconate program. We've had 2 in our church, Deacon Jerry Rhodes and then Deacon Dave Dupuis. And I think it's well worth talking about.
Okay,
Is
Helen.
Jerry was the first one to be ordained in the diocese, and he was ordained March the 29th, 1987, and at that time the men had to train for 4 years, take classes and everything else, and the women of their wives had to do the same thing.
Oh.
And we can, then at the end, when they decided they wanted to be ordained a deacon, the women were asked if they wanted to be mandated into the service. Mm-hmm. And a lot of them didn't, and some did. And then Deacon
Tell me
Dave-
a little bit though, Helen, what did a deacon do in the church then?
They can do everything except hear confession and consecrate the.
Okay. So there was a spell between you having a priest, the deacon would be
Well, they
there.
assist the priests. They don't take over.
No.
They assist them.
Right,
Yeah.
right, okay.
Because they were short of priests, and this is the past history that's come back.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
And then Deacon Dave was ordained September the 7th, 2008. And then, and he was just a godsend to this church. Fantastic. And then his wife Peggy was mandated into the service the same day.
Okay,
Yeah, so she has a title.
okay.
Yeah, now the deacons only need 2 years instead of 4.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So when Jerry's 4 years was up, could it happen, kick in again, another 4 years or?
No. He had to go to school for 4 years. And then he's ordained. He had, there was an
Oh, I
actual
get it.
beautiful ordination service right here. The bishop came down and ordained him. It was beautiful for both him and David.
Right,
Yeah.
okay.
But the deacons, it's amazing the amount they can do, and assisting the priests and
Right.
stuff like that.
They can do baptisms.
Baptism,
Yeah.
marriages, if the bishop says they can.
Okay,
But they cannot say the Mass, because to us, the Mass is the consecration of the Host.
Right.
So, but they can do a communion service.
Right.
And believe you me, David has done many, and Jerry has done many.
So has Peggy.
And Peggy as well. And now, unfortunately, David died, what is that, about 6 years ago now, I guess 5 or 6 years ago? But anyway, but his wife has become like the right-hand man, the right-hand woman for the priests that
Yes.
come.
okay.
Because she just has so much experience, and she just, and she just does it all beautifully in her quiet, lovely way. And she does a lot.
Oh, okay, okay. And those things are changing in every church now. Because I'm on the cemetery committee, we notice that it's not important now for some families to have a priest, a minister, a pastor at a funeral. It's very interesting how everything is really changing.
Well, especially, I mean, it's interesting. COVID did a lot of that as well.
Yes, for sure.
And then there were no funerals, and people were waiting how long to have it. Now, what's come about with this new priest that we have, he's one of those that's really trying to encourage the people to have funerals again.
Right.
And he goes out of his way to do it. And so, because so many people now, at one time, if you were Catholic, the priest went to the hospital to see you.
Right.
That isn't the case anymore. So he's kind of like, there's some of us that are involved in the hospital as well. So we'll go to the people and say to them, would you like to see the priest? Because they don't come and just automatically do it anymore.
They can't do it.
No, but we still have at the church, I mean, at the hospital, we still have a service every Wednesday morning at the hospital where like lay people will be going up to do that. But now this priest, though, once a month, he goes up and says mass for the people there that want to be. Right. So he's making his presence known.
Right.
But otherwise, there's been communion services done by lay people, but he's been going up. So he's really trying to encourage funerals again. So we've had a fair amount in this church. And so anyone that's Catholic, we're all trying to go and say, really, a funeral would be lovely. And now, and because you could have that closure.
Right, right.
And so they've been happening.
It's a whole different thing now, isn't it? And you're right, COVID changed it, because when you mentioned World Day of Prayer, it was we taped it virtually last year and showed it as a church service in the United Church, because, and I don't know what's happening this year. I keep asking who wants to eat it, but it likely won't happen. But one thing about that World Day of Prayer online is it's got amazing backgrounds, because they include the pictures from that country.
That's right.
And the people. And I found that is really, truly, compared to you pretending that you're from that country, is amazing, amazing. But yes, I can remember the World Day of Prayer. This church would be filled so many times with people that come here.
And I think that's the biggest challenge of all of us churches.
Right.
Is because since COVID, is to get people to come back to church. We still don't have very many coming back. No. And, you're trying to rack your brain to say, what can we do to get them to come back to church? Yeah. And it's the major challenge of all church in all of the developing countries.
Yeah.
I
would just think, the priest you have today is right modern. Wouldn't Father Meyer have a fit if he saw all that stuff online? He'd think, oh my gosh, what's all this thing from the computer, right? So those priests would be amazed at how your priest interacts with people electronically now.
Yeah, but he's trying to be in the schools more, because even the Catholic schools have changed. At one time, there were not non-Catholic teachers. They didn't exist, and now.
And I was one of the first ones that took Roland's place, and that's why Father Meyer was always checking on me all the time.
And now
that's right.
Kids are having a choice whether they want to make the sacraments.
They're having a choice of which school they want to go to, too.
Yeah, and
back and forth, back and forth.
That's right. But the biggest thing for us is the sacraments, is that we might have 5 kids making their confirmation. And it's done now outside of schools.
Right.
Like my 2 grandchildren made their confirmation in Thunder Bay, and that's where they go to. And they took all their training outside of the school.
Wow.
So the schools have changed as well, and it's just the world they live in. I'm just so grateful that they all made their confirmation. I'm very happy that all 5 of them have so far. And Weston, he's made his communion, but anyway. The world has changed.
Yes.
And the churches have changed, and it's a real challenge
That's
of
a-
these churches.
A challenge for a church as big as you have here.
That's right.
To keep this going too. But it's amazing when you look around, to me it is, just at the architecture of your church.
Yes.
All the other churches are small and modern, but this is a big church for a small town now.
Well, at one time it was full, and then probably about 10, 15 years ago, we started doing some major renovations. And one of them was the interior. We had to do the interior. But the exterior, when we had it sided last year, or a few years back, we ended up having the whole thing insulated on the outside. All of these beautiful stained glass windows now are all clad with plexiglass. Everything we can. We had all new insulation blown into the ceiling. Anything to help on the heating bills.
Right.
Because you can imagine what this costs to heat.
Yes.
You can imagine,
Yes.
you know, and then, but again, I always go back to the generosity, I'm sure, of most parishioners.
Oh, yes, yeah.
Ours is wonderful. We needed a new roof. We got quotes for a new roof, and I was in charge of the fundraising for that. And that roof was $50,000.
That was this year they did it, right?
Yeah, last year I believe it was. Yeah, last year, and we raised the $50,000 with the amount of parishioners that we have. I mean, that is absolutely wonderful.
Right.
To be able to do that, you know. And I'm always in awe at
Right.
people's generosity.
Right.
But no, you can imagine what it costs to keep up this church.
Yes.
The maintenance and everything
Yes.
in a church like this.
It is.
But it's beautifully well maintained, and it's just an ongoing process.
Right. Because I remember Doris Williams was very involved.
Oh, yes.
Her and Farrell, the principal. Farrell?
Oh, yeah.
Doesn't sound right. The principal, him and his wife. He was.
That's the name of the drive in front of the school right now, too.
Is
and
it
I look at-
Farrell?
No, it's something like that.
Jerry Fallon.
Fallon.
The Fallons, him and Doris worked really hard at that whole thing of getting the fundraising and everything to do all these major renovations that had to be done. And then since they've been gone, we had to redo the front steps and the sidewalk and all the exterior stuff.
Yeah.
And, but it's getting done. And when you think of it, we just have a handful of us volunteers that are really active in the church.
We just need something to help us get up the stairs now.
We had
The elevator doesn't work.
Oh, it doesn't.
I know, and that's that's our next
But
major.
they're a costly thing to have.
Oh, yes,
I know
yes.
one church in Red Rock, they got rid of theirs in the end because it was just so
I know,
costly.
yeah, and we just had our parish council meeting recently trying to get that done again, to see what we could do. We tried to do, that when that one was built, it was a secondhand one, and that was when Father Bazinet was here. We put in that one, and unfortunately, it's given us problems, but,
Right.
Can't get parts for them anymore, you know,
It was
it's
great.
the problem.
and it's breaking all the time, so we just got a new quote again to get that, but that's also means a major fundraising again.
Right,
Yeah.
costly thing,
Yeah,
that's for sure.
exactly.
For sure. But, no, that's a big part of the community has been the Catholic Church, the Church of Annunciation, for sure, and many things. And every year, if I can, I make sure I get out the front when graduation's over, because the picture has to be taken on the front steps, I'm sure, for the
Oh, yeah.
for the last 20 years.
And same with First Communion. It's so cool.
Yeah.
Again, having been one of those kids who made our First Communion here, and I could look at that. I've seen the picture countless times of me and that little group there. I guess it would have been 1962, I guess. I think we made it in grade 2 in those
Right,
days.
right.
And they still do it today.
Yeah.
They take that picture, and the girls are in their white dresses, and the boys in their little bow ties or neckties or whatever, and it's still happening today. And
Well, the front steps of this church is just perfect for a tiered picture, so you get everybody in the photo.
Everybody, yes.
And you can see everybody lined up outside to take a picture of it.
still have pictures of my children. doing
Yeah,
the same thing.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly, yes. We didn't do the groups for the confirmation, but we did for First Communion.
Yeah, yeah.
And anyway, and then of course,
Yeah.
all our wedding pictures and everything else for so many of us
Right,
that had everything baptized, everything right through to wedding, and
right.
who knows, maybe one day. But, you
Any,
know,
yeah. So any other little things you can think of that the church has been involved in here or that you would like to mention? You have your organ upstairs, right?
It's gone now,
Oh,
it's
it's
been
gone.
there, and there's been a couple of changes over the years. Some of the musicians have liked to stay upstairs with the organ. We had that great big old one
Right.
there. And some, like as you can see here, prefer to do down here.
Right.
And that's always been a bit of a debate over the years, but
Well, Catholics aren't known for their singing in church. It's always the choir, you know.
And that's one thing I will say, that bothers me when I come here and I want to sing and I'm looking around and nobody
well,
else
sit by me,
is
I'll
singing.
sing.
I will sing, I will sing.
Well, I try singing and then everybody looks at me, so
Yeah.
then I shut up.
No, I always sing along.
When I came to the graduation last year, I thought, how come nobody sings?
Yeah,
Yeah.
because they're not ready. Anyway, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're very proud of it, and really, we do not have a lot of, we have a lot of people on our list, but we still have a fair amount of churchgoers, but you can count on those people like you wouldn't believe. And everybody does their part. The Catholic Women's League still does all the things they do. The Knights of Columbus, there's still a couple of those around that still do the stuff they do. So we still have a very vibrant, small group of people. Right. That, you know, not like the hundreds that were here before.
Yeah.
But that's the same. I mean, the population, we know, Glenna has gone from 3,500 to 1,500. So it's kind of hard not to, and we're an aging population in this town as well. So it just kind of is what it is. So.
But at least we're getting it written down. I mean, we're getting it on recording, and that's why I wanted to make sure. But I just thought coming into the church to do it was a better idea than at the museum.
Oh, yes.
Because we're getting the background. And so when we're finished, Kirsten will just maybe walk around and take a picture of each of the stained glass windows.
Beautiful.
So that people who are looking at one of the narrations from far away, well, I remember being there and seeing the stained glass windows.
Yes, and the front is so, the front of the church is just so synonymous with the town as well, because it is the biggest
Right, it is the biggest
church, yes. Yeah.
Okay, Kirsten, that's fine. We've got a really good interview with Helen and Louise. Thank you.